Welcome to the podcast, And the Church Said. My name is Dr. Monique Smith Gadson, also known as Dr. Mo, a Christian licensed professional counselor specializing in marriage and family therapy. I'm your host for this weekly podcast where we discuss church and culture from a Christian counseling perspective. All of our insights are rooted biblically to foster emotional, mental, and spiritual health for individuals and churches. We aim to equip the saints for the work of the ministry. Quite simply, we help the church help the people. Although I am a licensed clinician, this podcast is not intended to serve as therapy. We strongly encourage you to seek out your own personal relationship with a professional therapist. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to have you here joining us for our conversation on today. So today we're talking about Resurrection Sunday, disciples, and doubt. First of all, I would like to take time to thank everyone for listening to this podcast and to those of you who have subscribed and shared. I'm so appreciative of your support and your encouragement. Please consider supporting the work by going and writing a review and giving us a 5-star rating. And if you have found this podcast to be insightful and beneficial, which I do pray it has been a blessing unto you. Thank you so much for doing those things, for it helps us to be found more readily for other listeners who may find this podcast to be of interest to them. So today is Resurrection Sunday 2020. Due to the coronavirus quarantine, celebrating the resurrection looks and feels differently to many this year. Not that people have not had challenges before, but this pandemic has introduced dynamics into our lives that some of us have never had to experience before. I want to just briefly speak to those who might be disillusioned, depressed, and perhaps doubtful on this Resurrection Day. I want you to know why it is okay for you to feel this way, even on the day where the Christian world lifts its collective voice saying, "He is risen, and the tomb is empty, and he is not here." There are some, unfortunately, who are dealing with abuse suffered at the hands of parents and spouses or companions. There are some who have been denied basic services or acts of service as individuals in need. There are some who have been mocked as they have tried to remain faithful in the toughest of times. There are some who have been misunderstood due to their love for the Lord. There are some who are experiencing blow after blow, literally physical, emotional, financial, mental, and spiritual. There are some who are in excruciating emotional and physical pain. There are some who are trying to hang in there as best as they know, but it is getting harder and harder and bleaker and bleaker. While there is this celebratory aspect of the resurrection that, yes, we should exclaim, I want to show you where even after the resurrection, there is room and reason at times to feel disillusioned, depressed, and doubtful. Matthew 28:16-18 reads, "The 11 disciples traveled to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had directed them. When they saw him, they worshiped, but some doubted. Jesus came near and said to them, 'All authority has been given to me in heaven and earth. Jesus had sent the word to the disciples by Mary and Mary that Jesus has risen, just as he said he would. He told them to meet him in Galilee. When they saw him, they worshiped. When most of us see Jesus, we know to worship him, for he is worthy. However, the next few words say, but some doubted. They have been with Jesus, they have seen Jesus, they have worshiped him, and some doubted. Many of us today might find ourselves worshiping him while at the same time wrestling with doubt. There is a lot going on. Many are experiencing many afflictions. We live in tensions between competing feelings and thoughts innumerable times during this life. We need to be careful as we look in judgment upon those who doubt. Be careful unless you walk in those shoes. Be careful that you do not create a marginalized population within the church that cannot feel safe to express their laments and doubts and confusions and anger. There are some who can see Jesus and can worship Jesus and still at times doubt. The scriptures allow for this to be highlighted because he wants you to know he sees you. Even on this day of resurrection, he sees you who have doubt. Lastly, I want to point out to you what Jesus did. He came near. Jesus will draw near to you while you're in this difficult place that has caused doubt to reign. Yes, Jesus is drawing near to some of you. He is saying to you, I'm no longer there. Here I am. To that child who, due to this quarantine, is doubtful that he or she will be rescued from his abusive parents or parents, Jesus is drawing near. To the woman or man who is suffering physical and emotional and verbal abuse at the hands of another, you're doubtful that this will ever end. Jesus is drawing near. To the one who has suffered loss after loss and shock after shock and trial after trial during this time, Jesus is drawing near. To the one who is tired of being mocked and misunderstood time after time, just trying to tell folks that Jesus lives and God speaks to us, commanding us to turn from our evil ways, Jesus is drawing near. To the one who doesn't know how to pay his or her bills and to feed the family, Jesus is drawing near. Jesus draws near and he shows you his hands and his feet where the nails were driven through, and he shows you his side to say, yeah, I know what it feels like to suffer physically and emotionally and mentally and spiritually. Jesus says, look at my side. Yes, this is where I was pierced. And Jesus endured this for a joy that was before him. On this Resurrection Sunday, it may not feel as though you've risen above anything, but right now you may feel as though you are underneath the weight of the world. You may feel trapped and you know not what to do. Jesus is coming near. He has all authority. Everything and everyone will have to bow at the name of Jesus. Right now, even on Resurrection Sunday, all you may see and experience and feel is suffering, the fellowship of his suffering. But what's before you? It's the power of his resurrection. There is a joy that is set before us as it was for Jesus. All authority he has. So if you feel bad for feeling bad on this Resurrection Sunday, know that it's okay. Even on the resurrection, after the resurrection, the disciples doubted. Just because we follow him does not mean at times we may not experience doubt. Just know that Jesus is drawing near. Know that he has scars and wounds and beatings and mockings and misunderstandings and denials and the memories of his suffering too. He's drawing near to show these to you. Resurrection. It has happened. It is happening. It will happen. There is joy. There, now, forevermore in the finished work of the cross. He hung, and you may be trying to hang also. You may feel forsaken as he did while hanging on the cross. He cried out in anguish to his Father. And you can too. It's okay where you are. Jesus is drawing near. After you have heard my call, what will be your response? And the church said, thank you so much for listening. Until next time, let anyone who has ears to hear listen to what the Spirit says to the churches.